And she was like, is that cool? I was like, we're not going on a fucking honeymoon. Make some money. That's fine.
Yeah, dude. I didn't do a honeymoon either. Beck still doesn't have an actual ring at all yet.
Does she have a tattoo though?
Yeah. We both got the tattoo on the same day.
Yeah. No,
but she also
cool.
wanted a ring, and I'm like, you get that.
You can have my other ring. I went. Legit.
Welcome to a podcast episode of Basement Discourse. We've basically been a gaming channel for a hot second here, which none of us are complaining about. Gaming's rad, but we're going to talk about something that has been occurring, and we're not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So we're going to go back and forward about that. Live action adaptations. We have a few things lined up.
Specifically anime in this instance. Because if we spoke about gaming, we'd be here all night with me bitching and moaning.
I just finished watching the Witcher Blood Origins, actually.
You've on it already.
Out of that.
That's kind of the worst, because that's like book, game, live action, and then down to a not
prequel.
An anime technically, because it's an anime styled Western film, like cartoon.
It's not a cartoon, you idiot. It's still live action, this one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about because there is a
prequel.
cartoon on Netflix though.
Oh, there you go. I
like
didn't know that. But
The
anyway,
Witcher. Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking
let's
about.
Let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's go to the thing.
Yeah, Earth. No, I'm not going to do the speech. We're talking about Avatar. It's pretty new out. I think Jace has been through the lot of it.
Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan's great. Yes.
Throwback. No, that was.
I actually never saw that one. Hey, so
it was not great.
He called himself Ung.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know. Justin, how many episodes have you done?
I did 2 before I walked away because I cannot stand the acting, and some of it is just really, really frustrating to look at. I get that the story was kind of there and it kind of tied in. The end.
I think the most important thing to do is to start at the start of where the live action begins. And it was weird for me because when it first started, so you guys have both seen the original animation? So I've only watched the original animation once, so my memory isn't perfect. So if I f*** this up, comment down below that I'm the sexiest man you've ever seen. It makes sense, trust me. Anyway, in the intro, how it shows like the Fire Nation being dicks and, you know, Ozai's predecessor and all that being dicks. And then obviously starting the war and that, I was like, I cannot for the fucking life of me remember this ever happening. Because one of the things that the cartoon did really well was introduce you to the world by reintroducing Aang to the world.
Yeah. Yes.
So because Aang had been pulled out of the world so much, they sort of reintroduce him and you learn as he learns. But this, it's kind of just like every other TV show. It's like, we're going to set everything up. But in saying that as well, I feel like it was half a we're going to do an exposition dump and half a we want an excuse to do a cool fight sequence to make people continue watching.
Yeah,
and I think both failed.
Wholeheartedly agree. It was wildly unnecessary. It ruined, or didn't ruin, sorry. The brilliance of the original is the storytelling. We are fed information in a way that doesn't make us feel dumb. We're learning it as Aang learns it. One of the coolest things with a protag who doesn't know things is you can learn along with them. You go on their journey and you can see why they make certain decisions. In this case, we know more than him. So he just kind of seems like an idiot a lot of the time, which is a little bit sad because you don't feel for the main fucking character very much because you're like, why are you so dumb? It's this. And you're like, oh, he doesn't know that. Like, from a storytelling perspective, I think they shot themselves in the foot literally in the first scene, which is a bit sad.
Yeah, I completely agree. So that was probably my first point of contention. And then after that, the next thing that kind of hit me a bit in the face was Appa. Like, he looks literally perfect for if you turned the animation into 3D, but he also looks f***ing horrifying.
Yes.
Like, that is nightmare fuel. And I'm like, have you ever seen like the adaptations where people use like AI to turn like Simpsons characters into real people and stuff?
Yeah.
And it looks just terrifying.
Yeah.
It feels like that. And like, so I can't say that they did a bad job on it, but every time I look at Appa, I'm like, this is grotesque.
Did you also find it's stark obvious when they hide the fact they don't want to spend the CGI on him?
Yes.
Like the scenes where they're flying on him and it's just every now and again you see like a tail flail or something like that and you're like, just...
yeah.
It just feels like they were like, nah, don't spend on this. Just don't show him or something. It's like, then use a puppet or just like be in a green screen room with somebody lifting a tail. Like, this is silly. I don't understand.
They did use a puppet for a good part, like a good chunk of it. I know
did
that.
They? It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, Upper is a massive, massive puppet in parts there.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is why it does look a little bit different in bits. But the frustrating part to me isn't the CGI that they didn't or did use on Upper. I find the CGI is just way over the top in their world building, and I find this is another trope that happened with One Piece as well, and I'm sure we'll talk about that too. But they just seem to build these walls up around themselves where the CGI just becomes everything around everyone, and it just feels like you are literally looking at a green screen that means nothing to you. And the world just doesn't feel real enough to be anything because you can tell it's all CGI. You don't even know where reality begins because you're not even sure if it does in some scenes. And that, to me, brings me out of the action more than anything. I think the reason why we enjoy things like Lord of the Rings and other big movies and scenes like that is just the epic areas that these guys went to and scouted and the effort they put into finding real scenery to actually involve in, the shots. I'm not even sure what's real in Avatar at all. I couldn't tell you.
Could be all green screen for all I know.
100%. Annoyingly, you've stolen like a gigantic amount of the points that I had prepared.
Good.
But I was going to reference The Lord of the Rings for exactly this reason, but my other reference would be The Witcher. Because, and I know it's like this weird legacy lore thing that Henry Cavill like put on his outfit and was like, oh, it just doesn't look like I've lived in it, so he rolls in some dirt and wears it home and all this other crap that we don't know if it's real or if it's just people blowing smoke up.
Yeah.
But you watch The Witcher and everything in there looks far more real. And The Lord of the Rings was the earlier example. You watch that, the trees look real, everything. You have to kind of look to notice the way the hobbits are done, yeah?
I just finished watching Lord of the Rings. And no, the CGI does really look dated these days. However,
it looks dated, yeah.
However, like a cheeky remaster would fix all of that. Like, that's all it needs is like someone to go over it and just update some of it, and that's about it. And it's only things like the Ents and stuff like that look a bit dated. Everything else is magic. Like, it still holds up quite well.
On the point of the visuals, before we move on, just because it came up way earlier than I expected, the clothing to me looks like cosplay, and it's exactly that point with the Henry Cavill thing. It's too clean, and it often doesn't make sense. So, like, the Water Tribe 2, Sokka and Katara are wandering through, and everyone's like, you're Water Tribe, and they're like, how do you know? And it's like, because you're in blue Arctic clothing. Like, everyone's boiling.
Absolutely immaculate. Yeah.
Like and it's immaculate. And Aang's... I'm doing it now. Aang's clothes they are so orange. They're not just a little, like... And I know they're like, oh, make it look like the anime, but, like, this is too much. You need to...
I
there is a middle ground to be found.
And your point about cosplay rings so true. Have you got to the Omashu episode yet?
Yes.
And
That was
seen
particularly
Boomy?
bad.
Boomy-
Boomy bothered me intensely.
It felt like a cosplay. Like I felt like someone was
The
just trying to do a
makeup was
weird
just-
cosplay.
Yes.
And
yeah,
I
I know
was
a lot
like-
of people are like vibing with it because she's like kind of banging and whatever, but it doesn't
What?
make it alright.
Dude,
Like-
Boomy's a dude, brother.
No,
Oh,
Boomy
we're talking
is
about the-
You're thinking of Princess Yue?
Ah, yeah.
Is that
okay.
her
yeah. Whatever.
yeah,
Alright.
or maybe
I
the
never got to
Huntress
it.
chick.
My wife
I
was
think that's a
watching it,
bit-
and I kind of like chimed
Oh.
in every now and then and went, "Still bad." Walked away.
Yeah, yeah, right. So also visually, I feel the overuse of like the blur background, very starkly sharpened
Depth of
main
field?
character. Oh,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
too much.
It is too
Far
much.
too much.
It's exactly the same in One Piece, where everything doesn't feel real because of how everything is focused.
So I forgive One Piece if we're going to jump over there or at least bring it up a little bit more, because the actual filming, the idea of how to film that is a logistical nightmare. The vast majority of scenes are on the ocean, and I know we've seen this before. I know lots of movies have done this, but we're talking about a Netflix series that could be committing to up to 1,000 fucking
there's no
so
way.
many-
How many did they
There's no
cover in
way
this
they're
first
going
season? You know,
They 100. So like, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
they are committing to a big, big deal. There's no way they're going on site to film in the ocean. There just is not. They could probably build a fish tank and get a lot of longevity.
I don't see why not. To be honest, it's a big ocean out there. I'm sure they can find a big
Nonetheless,
empty
it's
space.
also-
I forgive it a lot
It's also
more in
One Piece. Like
yeah,
Yeah.
that's got to be a cash cow for them.
absolutely.
It does.
Yes.
I do forgive the CGI depth of field, weird obviousness more in One Piece than I forgive it in Avatar, because Avatar has real locations that they could have been at that would be at least fairly similar.
So 2 points on that. One, I totally agree as far as One Piece. I don't know a whole lot about One Piece, but I've seen bits and pieces here and there. The big thing is Luffy, is it?
Yep.
The main character?
Yep.
His whole thing is like big, stretchy, long limbs. There is no way to get around that without mad amounts of CGI.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think some of the over-the-top bombastic stuff only can work with CGI. Whereas
Yes.
in Avatar, a lot of it is bending. And the bending, fair enough, that can really only be done with CGI. And that's fine. Because that's probably where the best CGI is done in the entire show,
Yes.
to be quite frank.
It is.
Yep.
I agree.
But have you guys ever seen behind the scenes stuff for Game of Thrones? Like I was
I've
huge into
seen
Game
some.
of Thrones before they
Yeah.
pooed the bed. But basically what they would do is they would shoot on site in like Croatia and stuff like that at castles, and they would shoot it, and then they would use CGI to expand castles and fortresses to look like the settings that they wanted. So you might have like 10 buildings, and then they would like be cloning buildings behind those and then building it out to make like the Red Keep and stuff.
Yep.
They could have quite literally done that for Avatar, and like a lot of the setting for Avatar, aside from like when he goes to the Fire Nation or stuff like that, like when he's in like Suki's village, I can't remember the name of the island, but that area, that's just a forest. Like
Yeah, exactly right.
there's plenty of
Yeah.
forests. I can go like 10 k's down the road and there's a forest.
Yep.
That's it. I'm filming Avatar.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Like, so the snow stuff, yes, again, a little bit difficult, but not that hard. People have been doing this a long time. Like, when it
Yeah,
comes to
just use
filmography and stuff
asbestos like
that.
they did in Wizard of Oz.
I was about to say
get it done.
exactly that. Wizard of Oz
That's like my
asbestos shot.
favorite
Yeah.
fun fact.
Oh my god,
So
it's
visually,
so terrifying.
I thoroughly dislike the visual depth of field stuff,
Yeah.
the overly colourful outfits. Like, yes, they can be colourful, that's fine, but they don't look real.
One thing I did do that I mentioned with you guys is that I watched episode 1 of the anime and the live action one after the other.
Yeah.
And they start and run wholly different. And like there are some
Yes.
weird choices on changes as well. Like it's
There
just
is,
odd.
and I think they've left themselves open to some very silly mistakes at times. So there's one episode in particular that I'll talk about because I just recently watched it, and before we move on from Avatar, it's the he left everybody in the spirit realm, then he gets captured by the hunting chick. Well, sorry, he left Sokka and Katara in the spirit realm. Then he gets captured, then Zuko gets him out, then he goes back in, but before he does that, he goes to the fire temple, meditates there. They've started including weird rules, like he's only allowed to talk to his past selves if he meditates at one of their temples. That was never a thing.
Odd.
Definitely easier for him to reach them that way, but that was never a thing, and it doesn't make a lot of sense because they're literally inside him. That's what the Avatar state is all of them at once. It is weird, and it left room for just some silly mistakes. So one of the big ones that stood out to me, when he gets captured, he's there, he's held up by chains to the arms, chains to the legs. He gets rescued by Zuko in the blue mask. They run out, they do their grand escape, blah blah blah. As they leave, he then runs off, and he's got his stick again, and he flies off with it. And I was like, where the fuck did that come from? And why didn't he use that before? He just never had it. He got captured without it. He had his hands tied the whole time. He was in a room tied up, and then it just rocks back up. And the whole time I'm like, why don't you call it Upper? Where is that thing?
He's on budget. Low budget sauce.
Because they took like 4 or 5 episodes and mashed them into one, and they sort of changed the order out of things. It got very strange.
That's the issue I have mainly with One Piece. So One Piece seems to be a best of, and I find this is a very constant thing with when they're not sure if there's going to be another time for it, you know? So they just go,
more
well,
seasons,
are we going to get another one, or is this going to be our only opportunity to showpiece everything we want to showpiece through One Piece all in one time? So they knew that they weren't going to do 1,000, obviously. So they just went, all right, shit, how do we make this interesting? Every single episode is going to be a one-shot now. And so like every episode is a boss fight, basically, which I don't hate.
Yes.
But I know that fans of the show will probably really dislike the pace, and that pace is extremely fast.
That's definitely a problem that I have with Avatar.
Yep.
So one thing that you'll get to soon enough, Brady, is they do cover the Princess Yue Sokka thing. And like one of the things that I really enjoyed about that is after like meeting Suki and all that, and then like he absolutely falls for Princess Yue, he starts to get over his weird sexism thing that Sokka had going, which is completely missing in this. And like whatever, I don't care that much about that because it's just one facet. But because they punched through so much of that story in just like 2 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yes, we like each other. Oh, we're in love. Oh, she's dead. And I'm like, well, I felt nothing for that.
Yeah.
Literally
Not
nothing.
trying to build anything up.
The character stuff we could touch on because I found it almost irrelevant, and I saw about 8 million articles before the friggin' show got dropped. Sokka's not going to be a misogynist, blah, blah, blah. Okay. He's still quite the ladies' man. For a start, he's not horrible to women as he kind of was a little bit in the show.
Oh, dude, no. Rewatch the anime. So I was thinking like you were.
Oh, really?
And I was like, he's not that bad.
He's that bad?
Within episode 1, he like rips on Katara at least 5 or 6 times about her inferiority by being a woman. Like he
so
is
it's fairly
quite
obvious that it
constant
just hasn't aged well, right?
Fair
well, no, because the whole
it was
thing is that
deliberate
he
because
gets over it.
He builds himself up.
He has character development in the show.
They probably just don't have time. They don't have time to develop anyone. That's the thing.
Probably it. Like there is no development of anyone.
it.
The issue would be okay, Sokka doesn't have time to actually like turn this around, and for him not just to look like an arsehole every episode, because otherwise no one's going to like him, and they're not going to relate to him, and they're not going to see his change from a dick to being good, because the change is going to be so quick. So let's just leave it
A
out.
little. I think they made the creative choice to focus harder on him being more of a vulnerable person. So they put him in this position, which he was in the story, where his dad had left and said, "You're the in charge." They go back to that fact a lot more in the live action, from what I've noticed, and how he was not prepared. He was not, like, he is a child for all intents and purposes. And also, all the women in his village he's mostly related to. So they try and cover up the whole misogynistic thing a little bit harder in the live action, which you don't notice in the cartoon quite as much. But I think they tried to focus on that harder than his treatment of women. And I think it actually kind of works for the pacing that they've chosen. If you had to pick some sort of character flaw that you can tackle in less time, I think that childhood abandonment, too much responsibility stuff is probably easier to come under than gender issues sort of thing. So I didn't actually hate that decision, because he still has a little bit of that going on, but unless it's, instead of a gender thing, it's more he's super interested in every woman he comes across because he's had no attention from Minnie, and also he's pretty mean to his sister because of a sibling thing.
Well, that's kind of how it
there,
comes
but
across.
it's been pushed aside. Yeah, I didn't hate that. I've heard people get mad that Aang isn't fun enough. I actually think he does just fine. I think the amount of silliness that he is actually works better in a live action, because if he was just as silly as he is in the cartoon, you'd turn the show off.
It'd kind of be
halfway
annoying.
through the first episode.
Yeah.
I agree, but I also disagree. So I don't think he is as fun as he should be, but I do think if he was as wacky and over the top, it would seem so forced and stupid, because I do find you can kind of tell that the actors are struggling to capture the, like, silliness but the seriousness of the original anime, because in 1 second Aang would be like, look, I'm a dickhead, I've just backflipped off a goat or something, and then, you know, the next minute he's like, oh yes, but I have to save the world.
Oh, the save the world line. When the Honest trailer comes out for this, you know how they're really good at picking out lines that come up a lot in shows, and then they do their, like, quick montage of it, or, like, make a joke out of it. It's gonna be save the world for Avatar, and I'm putting a stamp on that'll be my call every time someone says save the world. There are some TV shows I watch now where it's a completely normal action show or a mystery show or whatever, and then suddenly I'm watching a fairly light porn, and I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? This is weird. And in Avatar's case, it's a different thing, but it's also a theme I am seeing in a lot of modern live actions. Avatar goes from fairly light, I reckon you could watch it with children without too much worry. And then there was the spirit realm face stealing thing that was genuinely terrifying for a second. And
Really?
it kind of spooked you out of nowhere. Justin didn't get up to it, so you kind of have to watch the scene or something. It literally comes out of the dark, out of nowhere. Like, the scariest thing so far was, it was a big, obvious, scary monster. This was creepy as shit. And they did the jump scares in their memories. Like, it would play out their memory and then get to the end of, like, Katara and Sokka's. Do you remember? And then it would show...
I remember. I'm just thinking
and it was like,
back to when I made fun of you for thinking that Ocarina of Time was scary. It's in our DMs. I literally sent it like 10 minutes ago.
I saw it, but I didn't. But, like,
My
the
point
camera
is
literally
that
pans
was...
around a corner, and this thing in this mask that we
I think this is a you problem,
like,
dude.
This is
no, 'cause Claire
100%.
jumped out of her skin. No.
This is 100% a you problem, dude.
Yeah, this is you and your wife just being scared
I
of
think
shit
it
you shouldn't be
genuinely... I like horrors. That's fine. It just felt
Apparently
out of place to me.
not. Ooh, Avatar
felt
the
out
Last
of place.
Airbender.
Look, that Power Rangers episode was pretty scary, Mum.
I can't believe
Felt out of
Nickelodeon
place.
would do
Watch
me
it
like
again
this.
and tell me that...
They're mighty and they're
Watch it for
morphin'.
the first time, Justin.
Yeah, I gave up on it. Honestly, Avatar for me is just a clean wipe. I know people are going to enjoy it for what it is, and I know that true lovers of the show probably won't, in my opinion.
Real quick,
for the
because I
most
did
part.
shit on it
Yeah.
a bit. I didn't hate it.
Yeah. I did.
It's a vast improvement on that shocking movie.
Oh, absolutely. Anything is, though. Like, literally, I've taken bits that have been better than that first one.
Yeah.
But I just cannot be bothered. For me, the cosplay look, the CGI overwork, the poor method acting that comes out of this as well, and just the mashup of the story and just the fast pace. I just can't be bothered. Honestly, I've got better things to do than watch 8 episodes of this rubbish. So I'm going to leave it for other people. I'm glad to be a bad guy. People can hate on me, whatever, comment and rip me apart. That's
honestly,
fine.
Though, I think when I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, who the fuck is this for? Because
yeah, that's right.
It's not for Avatar fans, right?
No,
if you're an Avatar, a diehard Avatar fan, it kind of screws with things that you would have really enjoyed about the animation.
Yeah, everything we've picked apart. So,
yeah,
is it for a new audience of Avatar people? So, similar to what One Piece is, I don't know. I guess some people might not want to go back. Some people aren't into anime anymore. I think you bring up
a point that is maybe its most damning point, is Avatar's not that long.
Yeah.
It's 3 parts. They could have well and truly taken their time with it and done a frame for frame adaptation almost, or just cut out some filler and done something similar.
Yeah.
And had a great time with it and pleased a lot of people. Like you said, who's it for? Because it's not Avatar fans. Because if it was Avatar fans,
why
they wouldn't have tried to mash multiple storylines into single episodes.
That's right.
But
and
in saying that as well, with that, you're not creating a new breed of Avatar fans either, because you've sort of hacked up what was there. So if someone's like, oh, I just really loved the live action, which is perfectly fine. If you're into it, go for it.
Yeah.
But if you really loved it and then you go back to the animation, you're going to be like, what the hell am I watching? Because they're not starkly different, but they are different enough that if you really loved one, you're probably not going to get into the other. Let's move on to One Piece, though. Something that I haven't seen the original or the live action. So let me give you a critique on it.
So
go for it. They cross over. We're talking about different things. Go for it.
Throw down.
Jace.
Oh, I was dude, I haven't even seen this.
I thought you were going to weigh in.
It's got stretchy arms. 7 out of 10. Quick editor's note. I have now seen all of the One Piece live action and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cool.
I enjoyed it for episodes that are easy to digest. I haven't watched the original, of course, because I don't have 1,046 times 22 minutes of my life to spare.
Do the math real quick.
Yeah, 22,000 and something. Yeah, I don't have that much time up my sleeve. So this is easy to watch. It's easy to digest. It's actually kind of fun because it feels like every episode's like a D&D one shot for me. So yeah, it's a bit of fun.
I can see why you get that vibe.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially because
every
it's
single one of them is just a big
form
boss
your
fight.
crew, get your quest, do the thing.
It's exactly
boss fight. I can
and then
totally see how
there's a couple of reoccurring themes where bosses will come back and you're like, oh, the boss is back, but he's bigger than before.
I'm really curious. So, I'd watched One Piece a long time ago, and then leading up to this live action, I had tried to set a challenge, miserably failed of reading it all, but I read quite a substantial amount.
7 pages, baby.
All the pictures
chapter
only.
400. That's chapter 400 in 2 weeks. It is a manga. It was pictures only, I'd be done. No, it's good. It is good.
Oh, good. I'm glad we all waited for that.
Watching it as a live action made me realize, and watching it now after everything I've done with Basement Discourse, in the original version, it does play out like a D&D campaign as well, though. So you're not wrong for having that vibe. Even the way characters are introduced, yes, it's episodic initially, as opposed to D&D where you probably have everyone meet much earlier on. the way he meets them feels like meeting your next party member.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It doesn't. The way all of it plays is very much like that.
It's very theatrical. It almost could be a live performance on a stage of sorts, and it almost feels and looks that way too. So each scene looks like it's stage set. So the scene out on the docks where they fight the pirate crew, the shark guy, you know, it very much could feel like a live performance in a theater almost, you know. So it's kind of like, this is our scene, this is where the dance happens, whatever, you know, this is where the show is, you know. So I think it was much smarter thought out, and I think even though it doesn't look real and it's very CGI'd up and you can't really spark any reality from a lot of the scenes, I think it works well for this, and they play with it a lot more than what Avatar did, where they just sort of masked their reality and sort of got lazy with it. And so
honestly,
it plays off well.
That's the actual
Shonen
point.
really benefits from that though. Like,
true,
because Shonen isn't story heavy. A lot of it is focused more on, you know, people overcoming some sort of BBEG of sorts, you know.
Yep.
Like, you know, in like just thinking about it the way you were describing it, I'm like, that's exactly how Dragon Ball and then later Dragon Ball Z worked. Is they would have like these introductions that are almost D&D-esque, like, you know, Goku meeting Piccolo for the first time and he was like an evil king or something, and then he punched a hole through his chest and now they're best friends and stuff like that. Like, that's all very, you know, that sort of stuff would probably work in a faster paced TV show, but something that is so story heavy is so much harder to condense, because you're like, all right, got all this story, how do I just mash that together and not make it stupid?
Yes. So One Piece does fall down a little bit in the idea that it does all look very CGI. I will agree. But I think you're also right in bringing out the point that they do a better job of leaning into it. They are not trying to pretend like Avatar does that this is the world, it's real, but some people can throw fire. This is pretty well, just think of this as Earth adjacent. Like, this is not the same deal. Yes, some is overly colourful. Yes, some stuff is happening. Deal with it. They don't pretend quite as hard that you should be falling for the trap that this is real. I don't know how to describe it better than that.
Their acting is just a little bit stronger as well, and I don't know how or why that is a thing, but
the dude that did Buggy the Clown, despite the fact the CGI is terrible when his head is off. Like, it's so bad. He goes hard as an actor. He made me feel
it's a lot of fun
for that character in a way that the anime, the manga just did not. I could not take it seriously in either, and I thought live action would be even worse.
Is Sanji the cook? Yeah, so I really enjoyed his character, not just because
I knew
I'm
you
also
would.
a chef, but I just think it was really cool. His quest for, like, you know, the hidden spices or whatever whatever that is. I can't remember exactly what it is, but he's looking for hidden herbs or whatever bullshit. And like these like little backstory and stuff. Like, it was sick. Like, it was really cool.
Their backstory, like the pirate chef that took him in and ate his own limbs so that he could live, is wild. And then the whole, like, even it's such an anime thing, but it works somehow that you're like, this is fine. Where his fighting style is feet only, because chefs wouldn't want to dirty their hands.
Damage their hands.
And you're like, that's cool. But then he's like doing a handstand in the fucking sand so that he can kick someone in the head, and you're like, I'm pretty sure that's not being good for your hands.
I don't know if it's dirtying hands or whether it's damaging the hands. You know,
it was along that lines, but it's still a little bit silly.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it. But it's no worse than a dude who has 3 swords, one he holds in his mouth. Like, whatever.
So I don't have anything to compare One Piece to, obviously, but I do feel I was very much drawn in straight away. They well built very quickly, and I liked most of the characters, good and bad guys. I actually vibed with them very, very easily and very quickly. It took me a long time to sort of understand or to really vibe again with any of the Avatar characters, and I don't know if that's because I knew them from the past and they weren't anything like their characters from the original. But this one just felt a lot easier to digest, and I would happily sit through more seasons of this as opposed to whatever they want to call Avatar. So for me, this was much more enjoyable in just a much more fun and relaxed sort of way. And I feel like they took Avatar too seriously. They didn't have enough fun with it. And One Piece feels like the crew definitely had a lot of fun, and the cast had just as much fun. So
the cast had an absolute ball.
One big thing as well is direction. Like,
yes,
that I think the idea, like, I don't necessarily think the actors are bad in Avatar, because you see some truly great moments of acting out of everyone there. That, and like I said in our DMs, Princess Yue is the girl from Prey, and everyone here should have seen Prey, and that movie is fucking sick.
Yeah, it is cool.
And she's a brilliant actress, and so there's some fantastic actors and actresses in that show. I feel like the direction might be more what makes the acting feel a lot more flat. In, like, a director's like, oh, no, you're being too over the top and bubbly, tone it down, and then it just comes off flat, you know?
Just kills it.
You could be entirely right. I do recommend you watch One Piece, Jace, because you do like a shonen. I think, for examples at the very least of how live actions can be done in a way that is more enjoyable and palatable, I think it would serve you well to check it out.
The live action one?
Yeah,
or the anime?
definitely.
Okay, yeah.
Don't watch the anime. You will not like it. The anime, I think, appeals to a very particular taste. The
guys
really
who can only grow their beard from here to here, and they shower once a month.
It is. It's still,
watch the comments from
a lot of enemies.
Get them.
There are times in the story that I was like, oh, that's cool, but for the most part, it is too wacky even for me. Like, it's like, we're an anime, we're serious, cry over this person's backstory, and then watch this person's power that is so absurd Bugs Bunny wouldn't touch it. And you're like, what? I can't take this seriously. Like, that whole thing I shared from the recent thing, the whole, like, Gear 5 Luffy thing where he's got white hair and he's all fluffy and he's acting like a cartoon character. They put actual sounds from Tom and Jerry in that. If you're going to do an adaptation, I have no problem with you making it your own in a way. You've been given the money, someone had faith in you doing it, go for it. If it flops, it's on you. But when you are going to advertise it hard to a fan base, a big, strong fan base, probably play safe at least a little bit. Don't mess with major story points.
I think they think they're playing safe by making changes.
Yeah.
Because think
like,
of it
who
like,
wants to watch the same thing again? It's like, well, everyone, because it's live action, they want to see it in reality. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, like the whole thing with, as I always bring up when we talk adaptations, Sin City. It is like literally shot for shot. They just removed some of the cells in Marv's section, I think is the only one that they skipped. But that is literally it. Everything else, like even the camera angles and everything, is the way Frank Miller drew it. And that's how it was pitched to him as, I want to do this movie. And that is a perfect example. And anyone who's actually watched that movie and read the books, it's brilliant. It is exactly what you would expect. And I will rewatch that movie until my eyes fall out.
Yeah.
Give me more adaptations like that.
You're a fan of the original, and then they did the exact same thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I get if you want to have a bit of a play, but they're not playing it safe.
Yeah.
Like, they can't possibly think they are, especially Ghost in the Shell. Avatar,
they do, though.
Maybe they thought they were.
I genuinely think they do, because the thing is, they're trying to make money, right? And if you're trying to make money, you're going by the least amount of risk possible. But they think the least amount of risk is to use an IP and then target a different demographic or a specific demographic or make these changes for this reason. And it makes no sense at all to me. But from a bean counter CFO perspective, that probably makes sense somehow. I don't know. It's all fucking stupid. Go watch the original animes and forget about Netflix.
Yeah, quite possibly.
hard sell.
Although One Piece, I think we actually had positive takeaways from. So, Jace, watch One Piece. Everybody else, watch the Avatar cartoon.
Pirate One Piece.